right.
Yeah.
I am here with my friend Janine, who, as I was preparing for this conversation, I was like, how long ago was it that I met Janine? All I know is my partner was in coach training in DC and went to a first weekend of it. And he said, Megan, there are people here you need to know. And so I came with him the next time he went. And Janine was one of the people I realized I was absolutely supposed to meet, because whether she wanted to or not, I was like, I'm supposed to be connected with you.
I remember there was a moment, we had a moment in an elevator. It was full, but it was like just you and I were there and we had a conversation.
Like, I found
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So I could say a lot of beautiful things about Janine, and I want Janine to be able to bring herself into the space the way she wants to be known for this conversation. So Janine, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell the people who are going to watch this who you are.
Oh boy, that's a big question. But I think yes. I think what comes to mind first is I've been toying with the term like life enthusiast recently. And I think I am just interested and excited by and motivated and energized by living a life that is fun and enjoyable and beautiful, honestly. So that's how I describe myself first. I also am a person who loves creativity, and I try to lean into my creative side. I also am a coach. I'm an educator. I'm a learner. So I think those are the things that I would lean into to describe myself. Definitely.
Yeah, I love that reclamation of joy and creativity and vibrancy. I mean, when we got on this call, I was like, oh my God, you're so vibrant today. So clearly you are living your intention in a lot of ways. Yeah. So we've had conversations a little bit about the Sacred Rebellion recently, and I think both of us are people who have decided at some point to rebel against certain expectations, conditioning, certain boxes we have either been placed in or placed ourselves in, or both. What can you say about your relationship to rebellion?
I love the term rebellion because that feels very true to what it actually was in my life. So I am a first generation American. My parents were born in the Caribbean. So, definite love came from a place of love, but for sure, immigrant mentality. Like, we are going to the United States to win all the things and to be all the things that we think are possible. And you're going to do the same. And so that's what I just knew that was what I was supposed to do in life. I'm best friends with my dad now, but growing up, definitely more of a disciplinarian, dare I say, authoritarian kind of there wasn't a negotiation. It was, this is what you're doing, and sometimes here's why, and sometimes not. Here's what. Sometimes is because this is what I said you'll be doing. So I was definitely on a path from birth. I remember having conversations when I was, 7 or 8 about the kind of college I'd be going to and what I may study, and being asked to make those kinds of decisions like in elementary school. So there was a path, Megan. It was very, very clear.
And a plan.
Yes, there was a plan.
Yes,
it was a plan out of a place of love and concern and wanting me to be safe. I think safety is a core value in my family for sure. And I followed that path, and I did all the things to please and to be looked at as the obedient and good daughter, and to make my parents proud. Pride is huge in my culture. So that was until I started testing the waters, like dipping my toes in the rebellion pool, so to speak. I would say probably senior year of college. University was definitely a time where I found out a lot about myself and decided that could I maybe make some other choices, and I moved across the country to do it. And when I was far outside of you know, the line of sight of my parents is when and I was in the Bay Area. So San Francisco is a good place to kind of kind of shed your skin. And
Nailed it.
yes. So there was no stopping me after that. I kind of eased my parents into it, but I was on the path of this is where I'm going, and confident about it, and decided to just kind of jump right into exploring exactly like who I wanted to be. So I would say that was like early 20s was definitely that like rebirth kind of a space for my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you bring up such a good point that I find myself having with people all of the time, which is how do you navigate the inner call when you know that the limitations were placed on you or projected on you from a place of love or good intention? And it's this
Mhm.
like, how do I rebel within the context of a loving relationship, but one
Mhm.
where we may be really misunderstood? So what can you say about that process of holding it's another one of the holy both ands, as I often call it.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
they're doing it because they love me. I want to please them because I love them. And I've got this whole truth thing over here.
Yeah.
What can you say
Um,
about that?
it's complex, and it's messy, and I appreciate that you kind of honor the complexity of it. The way I navigated it, so I made it a point to explain to my father, or maybe not even so in such a straightforward way, that this is not personal. This is not a rejection of you. This is not a repudiation of the way that you've raised me. In fact, here are all the things that you've done well, because I am confident in this decision. Like, here are all the things that I appreciate about being your daughter, and about being um, influenced by you. However, peace and happiness and joy are really important to me, and I have and having meaning, um and being able to solve complex problems in my life, and it's not about you, father. It's not even necessarily about me, but just making sure that he understood that this was not a rejection of him, and not making it personal to my family, and making sure that I stayed really connected to core values of the family, um, while like celebrating that, but also celebrating some of the new uh, aspects of life that I've created for myself, and inviting them in to see it, not kind of holding it, at arm's length with them, inviting them in.
Yeah. Well, I know that both of us are big, I'm going to call it boundary nerds. Like, we love a
Yes.
boundary. We love talking about boundaries. And
Facts. Yes. Yes.
and there's this finesse of boundaries where we honor the intentions or the values of others while also honoring ourselves. And it sounds like you've done a really beautiful job of just intuitively, I imagine, knowing that that was the sweet spot where it wasn't this rigid rejection, which usually
Mhm.
comes from betraying ourselves for far too long. So we just kind of and you found a way to be in such love with it, of yourself and of your family. And I get this image of like you reconstructing the values in new ways. Like, you've got the same set of Lego blocks, but you're building these new things for yourself and for your family's story, which is really powerful.
It is. And I'm so glad you brought up story, because it could be very easy for me to have created a story about all the ways why I would not be accepted by my family. But I held them in a place where they weren't fragile, and they were strong, and maybe a little bit curious. So I didn't
Oh, say that
hide.
again. Say that again for the people in the far, far back.
For
You
the
held
people
them
in
as
the
what?
strong, and maybe a little curious and interested, but I knew that they loved me deeply, and so I invited them in, like, even when I was doing all the things that they might have thought were that I thought maybe I could have created a story that, oh, this is a little wacky, this is off course. I said, hey, I'm going to live in Central America for 2 years. Come see me. Or, yeah, I live in the Bay Area. It's 3,000 miles from Boston, where I'm from, but this is where I live. These are my friends. This is what I'm doing here. This is why this is important to me. And their arms opened even wider to accept all of the new things that I've created in my life. So yeah, I think it brought us closer together. And they even adopted some new principles, tried out some things that I was bringing to the table. So it was beautiful. Yeah, it really, really, really was.
Sounds like they followed your energetic lead. You know,
Mm,
you made a very conscious choice about your come from, what I might say, your where you were coming from and what you were saying and the assumptions you were making and the story you chose to write. And you chose to write from a place of possibility and
mhm.
love and positive assumption rather than fear. And I mean, if there's one thing I try really hard in my life to rebel against, it's living from a place of fear. And culturally, we're so good at it that it really is a
Mhm.
rebellious act to make that pivot and to go,
Yeah.
okay, my brain is telling me I might lose my family over this, or I might lose their respect, or whatever the thing is that's so terrifying. And, but I know these people, I know their heart. They
Yes.
love me.
Yep.
And so I choose to live into the love and lean into that rather than the other. I mean, I just feel you doing that probably just countless times, like lifting weights. You're building these huge muscles of possibility.
Oh yeah. Now it's like nothing. I tell my dad all the wacky things that, I got plans. Oh, I'm writing this. Oh, wait, you're starting what? Oh. And he rolls with it. He's like, how's it going? He's very, very, very accepting and open and loving and trusting. That's the biggest. He trusts me. He's like, I know who I raised. I know who my daughter is. And it's fully trust.
And you trust yourself.
Mm.
And part of rebellion, I see when we're rebelling kind of half-heartedly or timidly, people meet that energy. And it's kind of like
Mm,
it
yeah.
gets kind of weird on both sides. But when we go, I've been thinking about this, and here's what's true for me. Not always, but a lot of times people go, okay, she trusts herself, so I guess I don't have anything to worry about here. Go,
Yes. Yes.
go do your
You're
thing.
Yes, Megan, people sense an apology or a tone of apology. Oh, I'm hesitant. Oh, I don't really know. I'm still trying to convince myself, but it was unapologetic. Um, this is who
All
I
the
am. This
time.
is where I'm going. Um, yeah, I have to say, once the switch was flipped, definitely. And if I was unsure about the next step on the path, and I was vacillating between things, yeah, I mean, I'd be clear about that too. This is not. I'm not unclear about my intentions and who I am. I don't know where the path will take me next. I don't know where it'll manifest, in a next step, but let me be clear, like this is the core value that it's meeting and this is the intention behind this action. So yeah, definitely.
It sounds like values were the thing that helped you feel most anchored. And I know in the coaching world, we do a lot of values work. It sounds like you always had a solid why when you were pushing up against some sort of perceived limit or expectation. And that why was like your rocket fuel. That was the thing
Mm.
that really drove you, is what I'm sensing.
I would say that that's true. Once I knew that, so Michael Bernard Beckwith, I heard him he had like a conversation on like a Super Soul Sunday or something where he would say, pain pushes until the vision pulls. And it
Woo!
was, and yes, yes. And I felt that the pushing of this is not, I don't want to do this. Like, and it's as simple as that. I don't want to do this. I don't want a life based on this. Even if it's, what is the safe way or what, the vision my parents had for me, I don't want to do this. And then when I figured out, well, what do I want to do? That started to pull and that started to draw me. And so, yeah, I would definitely say it was the why for sure. And sometimes the why was big and unformed and, nebulous. And sometimes it was very clear and focused. But it was always there, I would say, definitely always there.
Yeah. Well, and that term rebel without a cause, that
Mhm.
when we're rebelling just to rebel, and that's,
Mm,
I think, where the word gets its greatest association and
mm.
emotional charges. People think of rebellion as just kind of like a because I don't wanna kind of thing.
Right, right.
Rebel with a cause is what I would say sacred rebellion is about, and that's an
Mm,
unstoppable force. And
mhm.
it sounds like your connection to that cause has been, I mean, I just see it as your vehicle for change and creating change in the world. It sounds like not only your own life, but in the world.
Wow, that feels so, it feels very satisfying, but it also feels so big. Also feels, yes, yes, and worth it. That's the term that comes to mind as you say that. It feels worth it. Yeah, like a worthy cause. Definitely.
Yeah, and part of why I knew I wanted to have a conversation with you on this in this community is I think there's this really powerful way that you are standing in the both and of creating change in the world through your work, right? You're a coach, you're helping people, but also the thing that's often glossed over is just being who you are in your day-to-day relationships is a huge and dramatic force of change in the world. And I think we overlook that. And you very much feel like one of those people who's doing both all of the time, living in that full integrity to your mission, which is being true to yourself and your values and encouraging others to join the party.
Yes, and I think it's a tightrope tightrope walk, Megan, doing that every day. In that I have people who I love and who are near and dear to me. I think we've had this conversation before. Um, who may not completely understand or may be a little bit um, put off or, you know, afraid of, or just not interested in doing things any different than than they've seen. And and that's absolutely fine. And it just, sometimes it feels like I have to block off, or it would be more comfortable for them if I blocked off certain parts of myself. And I'm absolutely not willing to do that. I'm not going to preach my way. However, I bring my whole self to every interaction, and with love and respect, and but I do it boldly. uh and so I've gotten the feedback, Megan, that it is impactful, my presence, and I thank you for saying that. It still feels like, as someone who prides herself on humility, I'm still trying to balance um belief, like feeling that and being that. uh so I do think that who I am has a big influence, but at the same time, um I also struggle with being who I am in all the places that I want to be. So, if that makes any sense.
It makes so much sense. And you're bringing up this very paradoxical aspect of intentional living because
Mm,
we I think, because I know you, I can speak in the we in this moment, is we want to be the invitation for what we
yeah.
know has been most liberating in our own lives, right? We want, it's like we've got this beautiful platter of hors d'oeuvres that are the best thing we've ever tried. We're like, you want some? And we're also called to be really respectful of the fact that not everybody's hungry. Like, they're not everybody is in that place. And that's like finding peace with that
Yeah.
and also longing for the world to um to be in a space of expansion and joy and all of that because we genuinely want that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that level of discernment in relationship of loving people enough to see them where they are
Yeah.
and then loving ourselves enough to not close off the sacred and non-negotiable parts of who we are to make nice. It's
Yes.
this like real, it's this line that I find I finesse a lot in my life. And usually, you know, like any boundary, we realize we've betrayed the boundary when we like fall off the path a little bit, and then we pick ourselves up and come back like, ooh, I didn't like how that interaction felt. Oh, that's because I was closing off this part of myself and I didn't even realize it. But next
Right.
time, you know, it's this very interesting dance.
I love the metaphor of the hors d'oeuvres. Um, yeah, yeah, I love that because, not everyone is willing to even try it, even if they are hungry. And there's many hungry people, Megan. People are hungry
People
out
are
there.
hungry and they don't
So,
even know they're hungry.
yes, 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 yes.
Or they
And
think they're hungry for one thing, and then the other thing is actually what's going to be more satisfying, right?
correct. Or I've also found people are hungry for what you have, and they know that they are, but it's just outside of the agreement that they've made with themselves already. Um, it's funny. I'm at a certain place in my life and level of maturity where I'm hungry for people who are ready to rebel. Like that's what I'm hungry for. There's so much of when I reach this place in my life, or now that I'm a blah blah blah, this whole thing is no longer available to me. And I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do at all. So yeah, it's a tightrope walk. Yes, it absolutely is for sure.
Yeah. And I find that, and you'll have to tell me if you found this. The more out I am about my unapologetic living, whatever that is, my like disco ball version of contrasting parts of self, the more I find my fellow rebels. Like the more I find the people who are also living out of the box. There's a magnetism that's kind of magical. It doesn't mean that I don't have a wide variety of, people who are growthy, people who aren't in my life, but the people who tend to want to be close and who I want to have in my inner circle are questioners. They're
Mm.
wondering why. They're wondering like about those deeper questions. Do you find that the more you like glow it out, the more people find you?
I absolutely do find that. And what I've also found is that it just takes a baby step, like a tiny little step. And they're right there. It's like you were there
All
just
along.
all along. You were right there. Yeah, or this is beautiful when this happens. When you reveal a little bit more of your glow, or you just shine a little brighter on this day, and someone who was already in the circle then takes it as permission to shine too and to meet your glow. Oh wow, I'm wondering about this too. And they were already maybe tangentially in the circle, or already, you were already interacting with them, but you just didn't know. So it's just a lot of people that are also just waiting for that little piece of permission, just waiting for someone else to wade into the water or to say, "Hey, I'm here," and they're like, "Yes, I was waiting for you too." So definitely, it doesn't take a big leap a lot of the times. It's a tiny little step.
And that's leadership. That's what you just
Mhm.
spoke to, I would say, is authentic leadership. When you dare to open that like new pathway within
Yeah,
yourself to the world, and that person that goes, "Oh, wait, you too?"
yeah,
And then there's that shared excitement, celebration, liberation, whatever, wholeness, whatever is happening. But it took
hmm
you leading. If somebody's
hmm
got to lead.
yes,
Otherwise,
no,
we're all just
absolutely,
stuck in pretending, right? That's the whole thing we're taught to do.
yes, yeah,
Pretend to fit in and be the same. If nobody else is doing it or saying it, then we should probably not do it or say it.
yes, absolutely,
Somebody's got to say it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And you've got to cultivate. What I've found is I've had to cultivate that leader in myself.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of trusting myself, which is something you brought up earlier. It takes a lot of that. And then it takes a lot of, I don't care either. You know what I mean? And not in a defensive way, but in a loving way towards yourself. This is me. I'm saying it. I'm being it. I'm espousing it, I'm exuding it, you know, and if you don't appreciate it, you have every right to, but it's not stopping me. So
And sometimes it's crickets, right? We have this big thing and we share this part of ourselves, and there isn't that magic moment of somebody going, "Oh my gosh, me too." We just share it, and then we kind of go, "Okay, I did that thing."
yeah, definitely.
Well, because it's the both and building trust in ourselves that isn't dependent on a reaction from others.
Yes, sis. Yeah. Yes. In this culture that's so dang performative, like
Oof.
everything. Yes, yes, yes. It's okay. I, wanted to, somebody maybe needed to hear this. You'll never know, but it's still a value. It's still authentic, you know? Even if I don't get an amen from the back, or even if, you know what I mean, there's no comment or what have you. Yes, yes, yes.
And that's the real work in my experience, is because all that stuff that comes up for me when I don't get the feedback from the external
Mhm.
loop, or especially earlier on in my journey, that was the stuff that I needed to see, feel, and take responsibility for, right? Whatever came up in that moment of, oh, maybe I did it wrong, or oh, that stuff that keeps us small, and that
Yes,
stuff that keeps us in
absolutely.
the box. Without those moments of being, for lack of a better term, kind of triggered or
Mhm.
uncomfortable, we don't see what was running our programming so that we can clean it
Mm.
up a little bit.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Oh, the programming. Girl, don't let me get into
Oh,
deprogramming. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So what is the vision of either your life or the world or both
Mm.
that keeps you on this path? There's a pull, right? I
Yes.
feel this pull. It's the bigness that you spoke to earlier. So tell me about the vision that drives you, because it is uncomfortable at times. It's
Yeah,
beautiful and magical many times, but it's really hard and terrifying in other
it
times
is.
to keep expanding. So what drives
Absolutely. I would say creating is absolutely at the center of the vision. And right now, for me, creativity looks like words. It's writing, it's language, it's, creation conversations. Um, so creativity is absolutely at the center of the vision. And then I would say the next layer out is autonomy and freedom to be able to create as much or as little, and when works for my life. Um, Next layer out, actually, relationships aren't necessarily the next layer out. They're there. They're at the center too. But just making sure that I am maintaining and deepening connections with people who I've loved and I've known all my life, and the new people who I want to love, who I may not know yet. Creating space to meet those people and to support those people. I'm realizing now more than ever that supporting and just saying, "Hey, I love you and you mean so much to me." To people, I've done that over the last week. I just reached out to a couple of people like from college days or whatever and said, "I don't think I've ever told you how much you've meant to me." Just having the space to do that, um, and making the time to do that. That is the stuff that is important. And then there's a really special place, not just in my heart, but it's my intention in the world to, I guess, be the guide, or maybe that I want to say cheerleader. I'm just going to say it for folks who have something amazing in their mind, not to the world, but amazing to share, um, that have just been hiding their light, and just to kind of open it up, just to open up their light, um, and do the thing that they want to do in the world, and show off who they really are, their gifts, their talents, whatever they're cultivating. So I would say that's definitely, that's the vision. That's the vision that's pulling right now.
More light is what
Yeah.
not to oversimplify it, but more light everywhere for everyone, more light in your own life relationships. And then that I use the word sacred a lot in this work. It sounds very, very Asheville of me, but to witness somebody else exposing more of their light is like, medicine. And so you have also created a life where you help people claim their light and then get to kind of bask in it and be like, oh, look at that.
Yes, and release. I mean, I speak to people that are wound up, and I'm glad you said medicine. And honestly, becoming sicker because they're not able to release what they want to release in the world. Yeah, it just hiding, or yeah, I would say hiding is a apt word for the way that they describe their everyday lives, and it's painful. It can be painful. Yeah.
Leads to suffering on all sorts of levels.
Yes. Suffering, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you feel like, oh my God, I really wanted to talk about this in regards to rebellion and living in this way that we haven't talked about?
Mm. Mm. I would say that it was absolutely a choice to rebel. And now it's a little quieter for me because it's become my way. It's just my way of life. And it does get less bumpy, so to speak. I attracted a partner who is absolutely a rebel too, and did it a little louder and with a little bit more of a ruckus flavor when he was younger. And now it's just our way. Um, so when you make that choice, it may seem like, oh, am I making a choice for a harder life? No, you're making a choice for a delightful life. That's how I feel right now. It really is delight when you own what it is that you want. And yeah, and really just step into it. It feels like peace, it feels like calm, but no less rebellious.
Yeah, rebellion is a choice, and therefore claiming your light and your purpose and your deepest desires are also a choice, it sounds like. And who we invite into our lives
Yes.
is a choice.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm really getting from our conversation is the power of choice. Great power. And we talk about choice all the time. We make choices all the time, but when we really sit with the power we hold to make a lot of the choices in our lives, I would say it's a mix of terrifying and liberating at the same time. Like, oh, yay, I have more choice than I thought. And oh, shit, I have more choice than I claimed, and I've been living this victim story or whatever the thing is. So
yeah,
this empowerment through choice is a theme I'm getting.
I have more choice than I've claimed. Sorry, Megan, but that piece right there, yes, dwell on it, sit in it. I've had more choice, or I have more choice than I've claimed. That's an eye closer right there. That is like, that's like, I need to realize that. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I love choice. I love decide. That's one of my mantras for myself. Okay. Decide.
Yeah. And then take the step and then see what happens and then decide again.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't have to decide 6,000 steps ahead like we think. Just decide the next thing.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Janine, I just love you. And I'm so grateful that you offered your time and your wisdom and personal aspects of your journey to this community. As you named, we need people in our lives that are walking this path and that are validating this path to stay on this path. And I'm hoping that your voice will really support and affirm others who step into this community who are wanting to open up with their little caverns of their light to share with the world. So how can people stay connected with you in the world? How can they learn more about you and the work you're doing?
Yeah. So JanineRudder.com is my website. It says a lot more about me and the work I'm doing. JANINE. Well, you can probably see it on the screen. RUDDER.com. And then Instagram is kind of the place where I'm playing the most, or I, am. And so, yeah, there or Instagram, certainly, definitely. And Megan, it was my absolute pleasure. And honestly, it was like nourishment. I'm now more nourished after this conversation, and that's how I feel after I speak to you every time. And I just hope that someone listens to this and maybe gets a little bit of nourishment as well. But it was absolutely my pleasure and a delight for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.